being here, for organizing this event, for Committee of Regions for hosting.
I'm sorry I have to go at the meeting.
But we've listened to you very carefully, and of course your invitation has been really accepted.
Have a nice speech, thank you.
Thank you. Well, this conference and this project does allow us to look back and to celebrate a successful and very useful project which has been funded through the European Union Research Project budget. Now, for me, this project illustrates one of the key strengths of European cooperation, and that is identifying and disseminating good and best practices across the European Union, and in doing so for the benefit of the whole Union. At the same time, the conference obliges us to look forward and to think about how all of us, in our different roles, can help to put lessons learned during this project in action. Now, how concretely do we move the collection and recycling of paper and cardboard to the next level, both in quantity and quality? I agree that the stepping up of the action in this area should be part and parcel of the European Union's ambitious circular economy objectives. More specifically, such action ties very well with the revised European Union waste legislation, on which the provisional agreement between Member States and the European Parliament was reached just before Christmas. And of course, the issue of high quality of recycling has recently gained additional relevance in light of the Chinese import ban, targeting several waste streams, including and in particular unsorted and contaminated paper. So with this crucial, let's now walk the talk, and let's really do it, point in mind how to ensure that the project leads to real action on the ground. Let me say a few words about the role of EU waste legislation and that of the Commission to help implement it. When referring to European Union waste legislation, both the existing provisions and the ones that will result from the co-decision process, from the review process, that we hope formally will conclude in the next month or two, the following obligations are arguably the most relevant. And separate collection is definitely number one. Article 10 of the Waste Framework Directive requires waste to be separately collected where needed to ensure and improve recovery. In Article 11 of that directive, this general provision is translated into more operational terms. It says that to promote high-quality recycling, by 2015, separate collection shall be set up, at least for paper, metal, plastic, and glass. And while this obligation seems straightforward, in practice, separate collection in many member states still leaves a lot to be desired, and not only for paper. This is partly, but certainly not only, because the current text of the Waste Framework Directive still leaves member states the possibility to argue that separate collection is not technically, environmentally, economically practicable, the famous or infamous PEEP principle. It is for this reason that in the course of the co-decision negotiations on the review of the Waste Framework Directive, the existing wording on separate collection has been strengthened. I can't reveal you too many details, but some of these will come out here, and these really are the ones that will make a major difference. Now, in this revision of the exception clause, more detailed criteria on the scope of possible derogations from the default obligation to ensure separate collection have been laid out. So there's got to be more and better justification for an exception. For instance, in the future, commingled collection of waste should only be allowed if this results in output which is of comparable quality to that achieved through separate collection. Similarly, more detailed criteria have also been agreed for possible derogations on technical or economic grounds. And by the end of 2021, member states will have to report to the Commission on how they apply these new stricter rules. I should also mention that in the packaging directive, an explicit separate collection obligation has also now been introduced. As you know, the new waste legislation that we are about to agree also implies a significant strengthening of the recycling targets, both for municipal, household and similar, waste and for packaging waste. Over time, legally binding minimum collection targets for municipal waste will gradually move up from 50% to 65% in 2035 with a possible 5-year extension for 11 countries, but hopefully they will not reduce that possibility. And for packaging waste from 55 to 70 in 2030. Under the Packaging Directive, recycling targets for paper and for cardboard will eventually be raised from 60 to 85 in 2030. At the same time, member states will have to reduce the landfilling of municipal waste to a maximum of 10% in 2035 with a possible 5-year time derogation for 10%. Again, I hope that they will not need those derogations. Moreover, the revised Waste Framework Directive will also introduce a ban on the landfilling and incineration of all waste that has been collected separately for recycling purposes. A third very important element to help move to separate collection and recycling of waste, including waste paper and cardboard, is the introduction of horizontal binding rules for extended producer responsibility schemes. On the basis of these rules, we expect that EPR schemes set up by member states, including those for packaging and graphic paper, to operate and will operate with a clear definition of roles and responsibilities, targets and objectives, that they will be more transparent, they have more clearly defined geographical, product and material coverage and sufficient collection systems, that they will be more harmonized on the scope and the costs to be borne by producers and be monitored and enforced more effectively. For all these various provisions in the EU waste legislation, to make a real difference, we of course need to ensure that we actually implement it on the ground. This is why, next to developing new legislation, this is the other crucial leg of the Commission's work in this field. We are actively engaging with the member states that are lagging behind implementation of European Union waste legislation. The aim of what we call the compliance promotion is to support these member states by sharing best practices and by promoting the instruments that have proven to work in other EU member states. The study we published 2 years ago, comparing the performance of separate collection schemes in different European Union capitals, just one example of that work, and the findings are still relevant. We've seen member states, we've seen capital different cities improve on the basis of that study, on the basis of the exchange of information that was organized since then. But certainly it's not a finished process. What is encouraging is that we know from experience that countries can make big steps forward in little time, provided that there is a political will. European Union funds are available to help regions. Here it is important to use these funds wisely and focus on promoting investments, including separate collection, sorting, and recycling, that support the higher steps in the waste hierarchy. And that's why I only concur with the invitation from Director Thuel from Committee of Regions, is that since this obligation really comes down mostly on municipalities, most municipal governments and regional governments, the opportunities that this Committee of Region can present in sharing that information with mayors, with governors that come to these meetings is very, very effective chance. As part of the review of the EU waste legislation, we are now introducing the so-called early warning mechanism that allows the Commission to identify those member states that are at risk of not meeting the recycling and landfilling reduction targets and make tailor-made country-specific recommendations to fix the shortcomings. And we hope to issue the first wave of these early warning reports in the next 2 months. Recommendations are likely to address, among other things, issues related to the quality of separate collection of waste. For example, through minimum service standards for municipal waste collection services and the operationalization of national targets at regional and possibly local level. So to conclude, the findings of your project are published at the very right time, couldn't be better timed. If only think it could have been even earlier. And now that member states will soon start their preparations to take the EU waste legislation to the next level. So now it is up to all of us today to translate the project's findings and recommendations into the concrete action. We will play our part, and together with you we can really make it happen.